guys, and welcome to today's Los Blancos podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the UCL draw, quick reaction to all of the UCL games. Obviously, we'll have some actual proper analysis when the games get closer, like we always do. But right now, it's just a quick reaction to what rounds have been received in the draw. So let's begin, right? Let's begin, and we'll start with Manchester City at home. We don't know who we're going to be playing when, so that's going to be decided tomorrow on Saturday. I don't know when this is going to come out. My uploads haven't been great recently. I do want to say sorry for that. It's because I've been on holiday over the last 2 weeks, but I'm back now, and Sean will be back soon as well. So, big content, a lot of content coming out soon. Man City. It's just a yearly tradition at this point to play Manchester City. It's just when we're going to be playing them at this point. It's going to be an important game. At the end of the day, it's two teams that I think are much improved from last season. In Man City's case, they are much improved from last season as well. Even if they did lose against Spurs last weekend, they are still better. They've signed Reinders, they signed Aït-Nouri, they signed Cherki. They've improved their squad. However, I do have to say, Real Madrid have also improved, and we all know this. We've seen this over the first two match days. The defense has much improved. But I can't really say the same for Man City's defence. Their defence still looks really shaky. A lot of their players look either washed or are leaving. If we look at Ruben Diaz looks really bad right now. Isn't looking at his best like he used to. John Stones always injured, and this used to be a big issue with John Stones, but then he had the season where he was remarkable, stayed fit. But he's back. He's back to being injured all the time now. Nathan Ake looks like he's potentially leaving. I'm not sure what's happening there. Akanji, same thing. Akanji looks like he's not at that level anymore, and he looks like he's potentially leaving as well. Edison's obviously now is preparing to leave as well, but he's no longer the starter. That's James Trafford. Trafford's not been great either. He's not looked amazing. So overall, City's defense just looks pretty bad at this current moment in time, and they haven't really addressed that in a fantastic way. So for me, I think we should be beating Manchester City pretty easily, especially considering how bad we were last season and we still managed to beat them. So I think it should be a simple win against Manchester City. Next up, Marseille at home. Again, that should be a simple win. I don't know enough about Marseille, to be perfectly honest with you guys. I don't know how good Marseille are as a team. I'm not sure about how they played in the recent years. I'm just going to check the Ligue 1 table. Where did they finish last season? They finished second, quite a significant way off PSG actually, but that's still all right. I looked at their team yesterday when we got the draw. It looks like a pretty, there's a lot of big names. I don't really want to give time to Mason Greenwood. I don't think he deserves that, so I'm just going to ignore him. The rest of the guys, they've got guys like Rabiot. They've signed Angel Gomez this summer, who's a very good talent as well. But overall, I just don't know what to expect. Roberto De Zerbi is obviously a good manager, and it's going to be a difficult game. Marseille will pose some issues, especially coming to us. I think they're going to cause some issues, but again, I think it should be a simple win for Real Madrid. I just don't think Marseille are on that level, but that being said, I did look at Lille last season and say we should be beating them, and we still lost against them. So we drew against them. So I think we did lose against Lille last year. So yeah, we do have to be careful and try not to stumble in that game. Liverpool, same thing, rematch of last year. I think the main things about this Liverpool game is, if we recall that game last season, it was, I think, a really bad point of our season where we just couldn't get anything right. Vinicius was injured for that game when he was in form, and Mbappe obviously had his nightmares as well. It was a point in the season where everything was going wrong for Real Madrid. We had no defense. If you remember, we lined up that day with Valverde at right back, centre backs. This is one of the first games in Raúl Asensio was playing alongside Antonio Rudiger, and also we played Fran Garcia left back. So that is all automatically an improvement. If you remember, Mbappe had an absolute stinker of a game in that game. Missed the penalty. Just absolutely got floored by Conor Bradley. Everything's improved for Real Madrid, absolutely everything. And if you recall that game, we still had the opportunity to actually level it up and take something out of that game. So in my opinion, I think that that being said, I think we should be able to compete with Liverpool this time around. I think we should be able to cause Liverpool some issues, and so for me, I think we can get a result of this game. I think it's going to be difficult, and one of the big talking points is obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold going back to Liverpool, but there's a potential that Trent doesn't even start. So we don't really know what's going to happen. A couple months into the future, we don't really know. So let's just wait and see what happens for that game. But it's definitely going to be a tense one considering the what's happening between Real Madrid and Liverpool over the last few months. But yeah, I think Real Madrid can actually get a result of that game, and so I hope we do. Then after that, we've got Olympiacos, Greek champions. They're always quite difficult to play in Europe, and especially we're going to Piraeus as well. So it's not going to be the easiest game. It's one of the actually more difficult games in this group stage. I'd say this is probably behind Man City, Liverpool. There's quite a few difficult ones actually here, but Olympiacos, if we're not careful, that could be a stumbling block for us, and we need to make sure that we get that job done there. But overall, I think at the end of the day, there shouldn't be a comparison between Real Madrid and Olympiacos. So, as much as I'm going to respect Olympiacos for the team that they are, for the stadium that they are, the legacy that they have, I just don't think they have the players. I'm just looking at a squad right now for players that I recognise. I recognise a few of them, but a lot of these guys are just old guys who used to play in Europe. These aren't really guys who strike fear into my heart. So I'm just gonna say, Real Madrid should be able to get this job done pretty simply, pretty easily. So yeah. Then Juve are an interesting side. This is a long time since we last played Juve. The last time we played Juve, off the top of my head, was the game in which Ronaldo scored that penalty late on. So it's been a while. It's been a long while, 7 years, in fact. So, this is European legacy. This is the peak of the 2010s type game. When Juve played against Real Madrid, and that was European heritage. Right now, Juve aren't great. I'm very critical of Juve as a club recently, and I just think that as a club they are just really poorly run at this current moment in time. They managed to squeak into the Champions League after last season, where Thiago Motta was just racking up the 0-0 draws. They managed to squeak in. They brought in Igor Tudor. I don't know, he just came in, and so they managed to squeeze themselves into the Champions League. But as a team, we've obviously seen. We've obviously played Juve in the Club World Cup. Okay, we played Juve in the Club World Cup. I forgot about that, but and we beat them. Not convincingly. We did struggle at points, but it was definitely a difficult game. But I still believe that we have a really good team, and we should be able to beat Juve. Now the key thing I think must be said is that they brought in Jonathan David. I think this is a really good signing for Juve. There's a few good signings for Juve are really difficult to come by. So I think someone like Jonathan David is very good signing. And if we look at their attack, Jonathan David, Kenan Yildiz, Chico Constanção, and Nicolas Gonzalez, I think overall that's pretty good attack. That's a pretty good attack. One in which they've got good players there. A lot of these guys in defence as well are pretty decent. They've brought Bremer's come back as well. I'm not convinced still though by Juventus. I'm not convinced, and I think if everything goes well, Real Madrid should be beating Juve, and I think they should be doing so pretty easily. So for me, I think we should be getting 3 points out of that game, and if we don't, then something's gone wrong. Next, Monaco. Monaco's going to be a difficult one. I'm going to be very blunt about this. Monaco's been a very difficult one because I've seen the signings that they've made. I've seen the players that they've got. They've got a very good squad, very underrated squad. I've just seen a report from Monaco saying that N'Golo Kante could potentially be going there. That's kind of crazy. But I look at their team. They've got a pretty good team. Their defence looks pretty good. Van der Sar is a very good left back. I think he's a fantastic player. And they've also got Eric Dyer, which is kind of insane. But Salisu as well, if you remember a couple of seasons ago where Salisu was playing for Valladolid and Southampton, he was very good. But it's the attack that I think is most interesting for me. I think is very, very interesting. Ansu Fati coming back to Spain it's going to be very interesting. They've got Miko Biereth, who's actually a very good player. I've seen him, and I think he's quite a nice player. Lamine Camara is a good defensive midfielder. Magnus Al-Kiliush, who's from France. Golovin, Paul Pogba is the interesting one. Paul Pogba's back in football, and I think it's going to be... I would love to see Paul Pogba playing at the Bernabeu one more time, so I hope Paul Pogba starts that game. Elias Ben-Sekir is a very good player, and he's a very good young player. Takumi Minamino, same thing. Diatta, a lot of these guys, these are pretty good names playing for Monaco. So it could be a stumbling block. You saw Barcelona stumble against them last season, and overall they are a good side. So I think, we do need to be careful that we don't mess up against Monaco, even if it is at the Bernabeu. This is one of the more difficult games of the group stage, one in which I think we could struggle with, but again, I do think we're better than Monaco, so we should be beating Monaco, but that's not how football works all the time. So I'm going to say, yeah. And then Benfica. Benfica's obviously Alvaro Carreras' last team, and I'm just looking at their squad now again. And yeah, it's been a summer of change for Benfica. But I think I look at their team, I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about Amar Dedic, who is Bosnian international. I think he could be a potential right back, I should say. He's a right back, and he could be a potential problem for Vinicius Junior. Let's see how Vinny's playing when it comes to that by that Benfica game. But you saw how Benfica caused trouble for Barcelona last season. But I think the key difference is we don't play like Barcelona, so that's immediately a huge difference between us and Benfica. Another interesting one, Richard Rios. I've talked about Richard Rios, maybe not. I certainly have on X, but for me, I think he's a terrific player. I'm really excited to see him play for Benfica, and so I've watched a lot of Colombian football, international football, I should say, and I think Richard Rios is a terrific player. He's one of their best players. Every time he plays for Colombia, he's just a fantastic player. He's just really talented on all aspects of the ball. So I'm really excited to see Richard Rios playing as Real Madrid. They've also got some other interesting players. We'll have to see what it comes down to at that point. Pavlidis obviously scored a lot of goals against Barcelona last season. Aktarkoglu, who's Turkish international, he's also very interesting. He's always... I watch him a lot of times, and he's really damn good. But I just don't understand. He's probably not the most consistent player, which is probably why he's at Benfica age 28 or something, 26. He's only 26. So yeah, I think Benfica could definitely cause us some issues, but I do think that it's a different proposition playing us to playing Barcelona. So I think we should be able to take care of business against Benfica. And then finally, probably the most intriguing one, Kairat Almaty. Now, I do want to preface this. I do want to say that a lot of Madristas are probably looking at Kairat and they're saying, this is just not a team that we should be taking seriously. Now, I've been doing this podcast for a couple of years now, and me and Sean did a preview for the Sheriff Tiraspol game a couple of years ago. I do want to say that. And what I will say about that is that, that game was a game in which we should have won pretty easily, but we didn't. We got caught out by a Sheriff Tiraspol team who played out their minds. And the one thing we said in the preview was, we can look at Sheriff Tiraspol as a pushover team, but at the end of the day, if they're in the Champions League, they're in the Champions League on merit. And that's the same thing about Kairat. Kairat are in the Champions League because they deserve to be in the Champions League, and therefore we should treat them as a Champions League team, not as a Kazakh team. So at the end of the day, even if Real Madrid and Kairat are millions of worlds away in terms of budget, in terms of reputation, they're still at the same point. They're still both in the same point in terms of the group stage of the Champions League. Kairat deserve to be here, and so we can't just take it as a given that we're just going to smash them out the water. We could, and we should. We should be smashing them out the water, but that shouldn't be a given, especially when we've got to travel all the way to the Kyrgyzstani border, very, very damn close to the Chinese border, 11 hours away from Madrid. 11-hour flight Obviously, if you're on a private jet, I'm sure that's not as tiring as a economy class, plane to Cairo to Almaty. But still, it's going to be a difficult one. It's going to be definitely a very, very difficult one. Traveling all that far away, all the way to China, basically. Kazakhstan's a huge country, and it's very, very far away from Spain. It's going to be a difficult one. The players are going to be tired, and I'm sure they're going to set up. I'm sure it's going to be cold as well. Let's not forget that as well. It's going to be freezing temperatures, basically, over there in Kazakhstan. Overall, it's just going to be a difficult game. It's going to be a difficult environment, and I'm happy for Kairat. They deserve to be here, but at the end of the day, Kazakhstan should not be playing in European football, because that is a ridiculous journey to be facing at this point in the Champions League. So anyway, I do think that we do need to be careful, because if we're not careful, then it could be a repeat of the Sheriff Tiraspol game, and we don't want that. Other teams might want that, other people might want that, neutrals might want that, but we certainly do not want to watch that again. So yeah, apart from that, that's all I've got to say about this UCL draw. Obviously, like I said, the more specific previews will be coming out when close to the games. But that is it for today. Tomorrow we've obviously got Mallorca, so we'll do a review after that game. But that is it for me today. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's Los Blancos podcast. Hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.